Hello everybody and welcome to another Transformers third-party review. In today's video I'm taking a look at an early test shot pre-production sample of Gunfighter 2. That's the MB-04 figure from Fans Hobby. This is their interpretation of a masterpiece styled G2 Optimus Prime. I love the name Gunfighter 2. It reminds me of kind of Street Fighter. It's like Gunfighter 2, uppercut, that sort of thing. But yes, this, as you can see, is not the final packaging. This is just the test shot packaging. As far as the figure goes, once we get him out, he's pretty much as he's going to be at retail. Now, they have made him slightly lighter by removing the die cast in the thighs. Now the thighs are still made of a very resilient, very stiff, hard plastic, but that being said, removing the die cast didn't jeopardize the stability, but it has reduced the cost of shipping and the cost of the figure at retail. So in my eyes, that is win-win. Without further ado, let's crack this open. And here he is outside of his plastic prison, and straight off the bat, he is better than Arch Enemy. Now, I love the robots in disguise. Scourge, it was definitely a great figure, and he is definitely one of my favourite Decepticon warriors. But that being said, it was always just a repaint of Generation 2 Optimus Prime, and this is such a fantastic homage. Now, they've done a lot of different resculpting. They listened to fans. They wanted the sections changed on the shoulders, the chest sections changed, and the overall result is a very, very nice homage to the original figure. Now, I actually get a set of makeshift instructions. Obviously, these aren't final, but thank you, Fans Hobby. We don't very often get instructions when we get these early test shots. We have to muddle through ourselves. Now, it's a pretty straightforward, simplified transformation. Not that that's a bad thing. Sometimes there's just too much complexity, which kind of takes the enjoyment away. War Dog, Bagcube, I'm looking at you. But it's nice to get a set of instructions. We never seem to really get them when we get the figures early, and of course, if I then do a step wrong in my instructional piece on the video, then people say, "Oh, Ben, you missed out this part." And yes, I did. I got the figure months before it went to retail, and I had no idea what I was doing. Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's take a look at his accessories. We get a very nice rifle, nice gold accents along the top there. Really, really nice, vibrant red. Really does break up that black. We can move this section left and right. I don't know if it's meant to move, but it kind of cocks backwards like so as well. We can flip down the handle like that. That's a nice weapon. It doesn't have any LED function, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's nice just to have a straightforward rifle, but there seems to be a fair bit of depth in there, so if you are a customizer and you do like to install LEDs in your guns and your weaponry, there seems to be adequate space in there to install said light. We get a second gun. Again, this one's much more in keeping with the Generation 2 theme. Very nice big cannons there. We can flip down the handle again. Now, these use a very similar method to what Make Toys use, where you just slide down in the palm of the hand. There's a groove just inside the hands there, and it secures the gun in place, which gives a very natural look when the fingers grip the handle. And of course, we get a very nice translucent blade. Oh, it's a nice big blade. Again, we get the ability to flip the tab section up so it can tab in to the rear of Prime's shoulders and can be compressed down to make it look just like a normal blade. Just like Scourge, these can be mounted on the rear of Prime by flipping these sections over on either side of the bonnet. You can then decide whether you want to store your sword on there just by plugging that in, or we can install either of the guns in the said way. Now, I know this isn't exactly like the double barrel gun we got with the G2 Laser Prime, but it's kind of a nice modern rendition, and they're making the trailer. I'm going to need more room in my display cabinet, that's for sure. They're making the trailer for him, and they're also making the trailer for the Scourge as well. They're going to be big. Just tab that in on the back, like so. Now, they went for the clear kind of translucent blue. Same kind of colour which they've used for the windshield and side windows there. I think I would have preferred the completely translucent clear colouring on the sword, but I can see why their design team went with the colour. I think it's just going to look better, and it looks slightly more professional to keep it in keeping with the windscreen, etc. I do love those big chrome smokestacks as well. The back kibble section is very, I don't know, I acceptable, I guess. It's a nice, tidy rear of a truck. I don't know what else people could expect, really. It is a G2 homage after all, and, you know, it dots the I's and crosses the T's. Now, the head sculpt, the head sculpt. Now, we don't have light piping, but we do have this lovely crystal kind of translucent green going on in there, which really does breathe life into his eyes. So we're not left with that kind of dead eye look that we sometimes get with the Optimus Primes that rely on LEDs, etc. Lovely paint applications on the shoulders there. And of course, the difference between this Prime and the Scourge is we get a matrix chamber. Now, the matrix isn't actually secured into place. I maybe would have liked a little tab, or even a magnet or something mounted on the inside there, which holds the matrix into position, because if you tip him forwards, it will just fall out. But the matrix itself is very clean, very precise. The shoulder sections, unless they're square, you can't really make use of the full opening of the chest, but there's some nice simplified detailing on the inside here. And like I said, the matrix itself is very nice. It's die cast with a gorgeous blue crystal and a very nice reflective chrome kind of gold coating. And we can just close that off. Again, this is something they didn't do with the Scourge, but they said they were going to do with the Prime. They didn't kind of feel the need for Scourge to have a matrix chamber, because he was never meant to be a version of Prime. He was just meant to be his own independent character in the Robots in Disguise series. Taking a look at the articulation, the head, much the same as MP10, can rotate, can look up and down. We don't have any quizzical tilting or anything in there. It's just a standard pivot left and right. Coming down to the shoulders can come upwards and downwards, like so. We can bring them all the way around on a very, very stiff ratchet. I mean, that's solid. That is. We've got a friction joint here. We get a rotation at the upper bicep. We get a bend at the elbow. It's about 90 degrees, maybe just over. Allows it to sink just over the 90 degree there. Lovely chrome detailing on the inside of that forearm. This joint here, the swivel, could probably do with being tightened. I think we could probably tighten that up by adding a little bit of nail polish or something in there. It's just maybe a fraction too small, that joint. It's nice to have the rotation there, and it's not going to move on its own. You still have to physically move it, but of all of the joints, it's probably the loosest and the weakest. Moving this forward, we do get an ab crunch forward and back, which I always love to see on a figure. We get a friction rotation at the joint there, no hindrance from any of the backpack section there. The legs, lovely ratchets there, forwards and backwards out to the side, again on a nice ratchet joint. Get an upper thigh rotation. We get a nice double jointed knee. Again, no real significance of losing the die cast in those legs. It doesn't hinder or impair the figure in any way, doesn't make it even remotely less stable. The wrists can rotate. We can open up those fingers. The trigger finger itself has an additional point of articulation which allows us to pull the trigger. Just taking a look at the detailing on the inside of that leg. Lovely silver highlighted pistons there. We have rubber tyres, which is great. They're nice and squidgy with chrome rims. And the feet are, of course, big die-cast lumps which can pivot to a scary angle. We do get a little bit of range forwards and backwards, but the majority of the actual range is in the heel and in the toe. So the joints are strong enough to allow for some pretty dynamic posing without any fear or loss of stability. Now this is how I would have him posed. I was brought up on the old kind of samurai and martial art movies of the 80s, so I grew to love the sword as a weapon of choice. I know there's a lot of people out there that prefer to have a gun, but if my bot can wield a sword, it instantly gets a big thumbs up in my book. I just like how the sword looks. Like I said, I probably would have preferred a completely clear translucent blade, but the blue still definitely works. It's almost got a hint of a purple there. And let's just bring that heel spur down because the base is a little bit wibbly wobbly here, so I don't want him rocking back and forth. But he's definitely a very imposing figure. He's got so much more girth than our standard primes do. Here we have him alongside Arch Enemy. Now what a difference a couple of mold changes and paint deco can make to a figure. They do look like different characters. They kind of look like they would have come from the same sort of clan, pretty much like we get with, I don't know, you get like Sub-Zero looks similar to Scorpion, but they both fight for different clans, that sort of thing. I like how they both look. I do still prefer the G2 Laser Prime in comparison to Scourge. I think the Laser Prime would fit in with more people's current collection because we already have an official Masterpiece G2 Sideswipe. We have the G2 Bumblebee, and I just think it's kind of more likely that Takara will release more G2 figures than they will the robots in disguise versions of figures. I really hope that we get a third-party company give us a G2 Masterpiece style Megatron as well, because that would be fantastic. Such garish, awesome colours. I believe the S model are going to give us a G2 redeco of Starscream, and also G2 redecos of their cone heads. I believe they were in talks about doing that, which I need a G2 shelf, and we are going to be very short on the G2 Autobot side, so come on, let's bosh out some more funky coloured Autobots. And here we have my Autobot G2 love so far. Yeah, we definitely need some more figures on that shelf. Come on, third parties. Now, as I mentioned, he is substantially lighter than their Scourge. He comes in at 698 grams. That's about 1 pound 8 ounces. Whereas Scourge is 846 grams. That's 1 pound 13 ounces. Now, before I get him transformed up into his vehicle mode, I've noticed when you put the double blaster gun in hand, it does tend to knock against this nubbin on his fists. I don't know if they can lengthen the handle at all, or if not, you can get away with this just by rotating the arm and then rotating the hand again, because the grooves then slot down inside this groove there. And see, it doesn't look untoward at all, but obviously we're not going to be able to benefit from the joints on the elbow, because once we rotate that, then the hand is going to rotate itself. It's a small gripe. The hand and the gun, you know, they're not going anywhere, but it's just something I think is a slight oversight on their behalf. You rotate this round, rotate the fist, and as we slide that down, you'll see what I mean. It hits against this top section here. There's just not as much of the gun in the hand as I would like. Right, now to get Optimus transformed up, you first need to compress the chest section by pushing down. That seals off this abdominal area here, and we need to rotate the head around. Now come down to the back section, and this section here is going to tilt. Now it tilts enough for us then to unplug the head, and by just tilting the antennae we can bring that head all the way down, and then bring this section back over, sealing it off. Open up the forearm section, make sure the palms are facing upwards, and you want to rotate the fist inwards, and then close that section back off. Rotate the arms inwards, bring the shoulder section down, making sure that this joint is clear of this back section, bring it up to the top and slide this joint in. Now do that with both sides, and then from this position these shoulder sections can slide, and there's a tab at 2 points, and these two are going to tab and press together firmly, as well as these chest sections here will tab into the forearm. Slide the tire sections down on both sides. Opening up this rear section allows us to bring the gas tank sections down, and as we bring them down, rotate them around, filling this void, and then open up this step section here, and then completely close off this back section. Now bring the toe section up and bring the heel spur into the toe, and then applying pressure to the tire section, you want to push down on the mudguard and click that into the lower position. Fold this top section over like we do with the MP10, but unlike the MP10 mold, we can now slide this section out, and this section is going to form an additional piece of detailing. Apply pressure to this tab section here. That allows the legs to collapse, and then as we're collapsing the legs, this tab section here just tabs in and sits on the section inside the mudguard, and we compress these two sections together, tabbing them in, securing them by tabbing the inner legs in. These sections here now cover up the thighs on Prime, which are nice. You can just make sure they are fully extended. And there we have our G2 reminiscence of Optimus Prime. And I like it. Look at that. That's some awesome rolling there. This screams mask to me as well. Now, a few people have said, I don't like how these bits jut out. I kind of can see why they say that, but it's kind of part and parcel of that big G2 vibe that they've got going on there. It's kind of a big mashup between the Movieverse Optimus and the G2 version, and I like what they've done. I like the smokestacks. I love how all of these wheels roll, albeit my base is not completely flat, and I love this extra detailing section they put on the top just to cover up those thighs. They didn't have to do that, but I'm glad that they did, because it does make ample amount of difference. The legs don't slide across like the MP10 does to join those up, but again, I'm not overly bothered by that, especially now they've shown the prototype pictures of their trailer, because all this section will be covered up by that really gorgeous battle base. Maybe would have liked some chrome on the front here as opposed to the silver paint, but beggars cannot be choosers. I know chrome is not everyone's ideal cup of tea. It acts as a fingerprint magnet. Really loving the window sections here. Very, very good, solid rendition. Nice paint fading on the bonnet there, and very in keeping with the current Masterpiece scale. The gun section can be stored on the slide-in peg slot on the wheels. Not a huge fan of that look, but again, I suppose if you want a rifle or something firing out of the back of Prime, then that's always an option. I think the smaller double barrel cannon looks a bit sleeker, and again, I personally wouldn't try and put the sword in there. Here he is alongside his arch enemy. Scourge definitely does look nice in his truck mode, but I'm still really preferring that G2 kind of faded paint scheme. Here he is alongside the MP10 mold. I'm not sure of the exact scaling of the flat nose compared to a regular truck. The windscreens, etc. look a similar sort of size. So I'm assuming that's a pretty good scale. And again, if we bring in temperamental, don't want to hold together movie Prime into the scene as well, you can see they are a very similar size indeed. So I think they have got the scaling pretty much spot on. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, an early look at the Gunfighter or Gunfighter 2. I don't know. It's Gunfighter 2. It is Laser Optimus Prime from Generation 2 of Transformers, and he is beautiful. I really like this figure. I was very impressed when Fans Hobby came on the scene. They're a new company. Yes, they've got previous experience. They've kind of grouped together and started this business, but they haven't let us down yet. They've developed some very obscure, very out there characters that I wouldn't have expected to have in my Masterpiece collection, but I'm over the moon that I have them in there. I mean, they're doing a Power Master Prime, they're doing a G1 style Overlord, they're doing a G1 inspired Roadbuster. I mean, come on guys, give us a G2 Megatron. Please, please, please. I don't need the engineering to be vastly different to the original toy. Just make it look more Masterpiece and I will buy it in an instant. If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, share it, and of course feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to pre-order this product, I've included a link to the Fans Hobby website in the description below, or of course just pay a visit to your normal e-retailer and put your order in now. If you like Scourge, then I'm pretty sure you would like this guy, and those who decided to wait for this guy instead of getting Scourge because you wanted an Optimus Prime, then you will not be disappointed. He is a big chunk of a Prime. I tip my hat to them. It's a very nice rendition and a fantastic homage. Until next time, from myself and Laser Prime, thanks for watching, goodbye.